dos olhos meus e a luz dos olhos teus resolvem se encontrar. Ai, que bom que isso é, meu Deus, que frio que me dá o encontro desse olhar. Mas se a luz dos olhos teus resiste aos olhos meus só pra me provocar, meu amor, juro por Deus, me sinto incendiar. Meu amor, juro por Deus que a luz dos olhos meus já não pode esperar. Quero a luz dos olhos meus na luz dos olhos teus sem mais lararará. Pela luz dos olhos teus eu acho meu amor e só se pode achar que a luz dos olhos meus precisa se casar.
The Run Part 3. The pig turned red in rage. He started cursing Nana for ruining it and grabbed her by the arm himself, pulling her for a couple meters with his horse, before dropping her on the floor. Then he yelled at the foreman, "You bring the good ones to me later," and punished this miserable, pointing to Nana. They took 2 girls and a young boy that day, but Tilia wasn't one of them. None of them came back. Later that night, Mary took care of the wounds of both Nana and Tilia the best she could. After seeing Nana like that, Tilia cried and asked for forgiveness as if it was her fault. Nana's back was pure blood and flesh, and Mary feared she was going to make it due to her age, but she was strong as an oak tree. Nana told Tilia that there was nothing to apologize for and explained her that the actions of the men are only responsibility of the men, for her to rest and recover too. To be sure that Tilia was going to be protected, Mary went to an old lover, Elias, that used to work in the kitchen. It was well known that people in the main house aren't touched by the pig because of the children, many of them in different ages, that usually were very attached to the slaves of the house, especially the ones that took care of them. In the next few days, they delayed the services of the house, just enough to be necessary to have more servants while avoiding punishments. Elias did what he had for Tilia to be in the new group, and until that day, she was safe in the kitchen. Earlier that night when Tilia was caught stealing food, she was locked in the box on the patio until she could be taken to the pig. Mary thought about running away her whole life, but without her there to read the rain, everyone else would lose their chances to benefit from her power. So even planning many escapees during her life there, she never joined. But she had been protecting Tilia for so long, she was like her own child, and she couldn't just abandon her. Without a plan would be hard to go, but she did it times enough to know some paths. She could try. Nana took her away from her thoughts. That kid won't make it without you. This time you will have to go, we will be okay. Mary looked at her and said, "How did you know what I was thinking?" "I know you are my child, as that one is yours," she answered with a sad smile. "I will miss you, but I want you to be free and you deserve it after helping so many of us. And that sweet girl deserves to live her inner joy." "I am not sure what to do," Mary said. Nana pointed to the sky, covered with clouds, and then pointed to her own nose as she was smelling something and said, "Rain, my child, that's your answer." "I can't wait for the rain to fall, but I can use it on the way." "Why don't you come with us, Nana?" Mary asked, suddenly realizing she had decided to go. "I am old, you two have better chances without me. Besides, I will have to teach more of the use of herbs to John and maybe someone else, now that we won't have you and the kid around. I won't last longer living this life we do, Mary, and they will need guidance." Nana had tears in her eyes. "I am going to ask Zenon's boys to create a fake fight. He owes me a favor. Does it help you, Mary?" Mary hugged her and said, "Thank you, Mother, it helps me a lot," and between tears she silently said goodbye to her beloved protector and prayed, asking for her protection. Mary had some tools, a few coins she had found during all those years in rainwater in an old canteen hidden under the palliasse where she was used to sleep on. She had no guns, but some of the tools were sharp enough if she had to use them. While Nana was making the arrangements, Mary went after Elias to say goodbye. They were partners for almost 10 years, so she owed him that, but that only. They lasted that long because they were smart and discreet enough. Until the day Elias brought Leah to Nana to give her herbs, so she could stop her pregnancy. Leah didn't want to have a child unless she was free, so she was cursing Elias for lying to her about not being fertile. Elias' silence was saying more words than she wanted to hear. She was very loyal to him, so that was an end for her, and she concluded that she was probably the one that couldn't have children, not him, as they imagined before. Mary couldn't find him anywhere and was almost giving up when she heard a movement on the patio. The fight started to distract and entertain the foreman. That was her signal, so she couldn't wait any longer. While Mary was running to the box, she watched Elias taking down the last white man guarding it and releasing Tilia from that cage. She was naked and scared, but not hurt apparently. Elias removed his shirt and gave it to her, and something inside a piece of fabric. Elias looked at Mary as she was running to them and pointed to the woods. He said something to Tilia, and she started to run to the point where he pointed them. Mary looked at Tilia and she was running in parallel to her, then looked behind her shoulder and saw Elias fighting with another foreman trying to grab his gun. Mary was almost in the trees when she heard a shot and looked back again, and watched Elias with the gun, shooting in the direction of the white men coming. She went into the woods almost the same time as Tilia and ran towards her, when Mary heard another shot, then another, and another. Mary went back just enough to see Elias falling. Tilia pulled her clothes and said, "Let's go." She had a map in her hand, drawn in a piece of fabric and a bag of coins. While they started running deeper in the woods, Tilia said, "Elias asked me to tell you that he had hoped that these," showing the items in her hand, "were enough for you to forgive him. And that was his original plan, for both of you to escape together, and he is sorry for not following you this time but happy that you will make it." Mary cried silently while looking for the direction to go. Started raining finally, so as long as the rain let her see, she could find their way. The map Elias made was of the cliffs near them, where people believed there were communities hiding. The map had no marks to where the communities could be, or it would be too dangerous to have one. Mary expected to see images, scenes passing through her eyes like memories as she was used to. But this time her vision was different. There was no planning, just a path to follow. So what started as a sphere of light floating in the middle of trees became thinner and thinner until it became one of those lines she knew so well and that she could easily follow. Tilia was keeping up with her run even barefoot. She was showing a strength that Mary never noticed before. She was growing up fast, and their painful life was taking the sweetness from her heart away, little by little, and replacing it with rage and bitterness. Mary could see in her eyes. They were advancing fast, and the rain was very intense, so Mary believed that they were going to mislead the foreman. But didn't take long for them to hear the horses of the men looking for them in the woods. They were climbing a rock wall of a small hill using the roots of the oaks on the top, when they heard the men coming. Climbing was slowing them down, especially with Tilia barefoot, but they were almost there. The rain became a thunderstorm that made it hard to see far away, so they just continued going up and hoped that the low visibility was going to cover for them. The lights of their lamps were far enough down there to make Mary feel safe for a while, and they were following the line, so they could find their way even not being able to see so far. So, they listened to the dogs. The sounds of thunder and rain only allow them to notice the dogs when they were close enough, and Mary then heard the first scream. She held Tilia's hand and started pulling her up, while the first dog was biting her left leg and forcing her down. In her despair, Tilia tried to hit the dog with her free hand, but didn't take long for the other two dogs to arrive. While one attacked her too, the second one saw Mary and bit her arm. She dropped it off the bluff with a strong kick, but she lost her balance and the strength of the injured arm only for a second, enough for the dogs to take Tilia from her arms. Tilia's screams were getting far away, and the only thing Mary could see was due to the foreman lamps at the bottom of the hill. Mary would rather not have looked at it at all. A pack of dogs were around Tilia now, and the brutality of the attack made one of the foremen to give her a shot of mercy, while the others stepped back or turned away, incapable of looking anymore. Mary almost fainted. She wanted to scream in pain, and through her tears and the slippery rocks covered with rainwater and her blood, she forced herself to the top of the hill. This memory was stuck in her mind, and she couldn't rest at the bottom of the mountain's track, where she was. Without the map that got lost with Tilia, she needed the rain to be able to know where to go. Mary was feeling destroyed inside for her failure to rescue Tilia. The weight of her loss fell over her shoulders at once now that she felt relatively safe. Tilia was her protege. She was the only reason Mary decided to escape that night. Without a plan in mind or resources, it was all about helping her. And for a second, Mary didn't know why she was still moving forward. She survived, but everyone that she had ever loved was now dead or still imprisoned at the farm. The idea of not seeing them ever again finally brought out the tears she was repressing. Mary let the tears wash her pain and covered her mouth with her hands to yell as loud as she could, releasing the rage she was feeling now. She couldn't stop crying, and Mary noticed that she could see the light path again, but not through the rain. She could see through her tears. Mary started to move forward, silently crying and letting the pain guide her to freedom. She advanced in the mountain track slowly because of her exhaustion, and because she was still questioning herself about why she was still trying to survive.
Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Check out our website to read more tales. www.foresttales.com